Welcome to this week's episode of the Casual Shooters Podcast, your premier podcast for the casual shooter. I'm not going to have the normal intro because this is part two with Mr. Todd Jarrett. How you doing, Todd?
Dave, what's happening, buddy? Hey, what's that rifle
Uh,
you got back here?
that's a Savage BA-10 in 6.5 Creed.
All right. Well, that's look like a fun toy to play with. Is that a loophole on top of there?
It is not. It's an off-brand. I wish it was a Leopold.
No, I love my bolt guns. So I've been in the I played around the PRS world for a couple of years there, and so COVID hit, threw everything off, everything's back on. Everybody's still trying to catch up on 2022 here, I think. So especially in the firearms industry. So we
Yeah,
want
there
to
was
talk
like
about.
2 years lost. Okay,
I mean,
so when we last left, we were saying we're going to pick up in the 90s because that's when you put it on everybody. So we finished talking about the 38 TJ,
Oh yeah.
and you had just won. Your first nationals was, now I'm trying to remember, if it was 91 or 93.
91.
91. Okay, but you went professional in 95.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
so I lost my job for the company I worked for. I was working for a company called American Tobacco Company in Richmond. And they were, number one tobacco company for 60, 70 years. And they got, taken under, by different means and over the years, Philip Morris and all these other companies. And so I ended up getting a severance package for a whole year. So I was kind of like, wow, okay, I'm getting a severance package for a year, and why don't I go ahead and give this thing a shot and try 1 year at it and see if I can make a run at it. And I'd already won nationals at the time, and I was, in the top five every year after that. And so, so I decided, okay, at the time I was married, and I said, I'll go 1 year and I'll see what happens. And then, so that was like the summer of '95. Or late summer of '95. Can't remember now exactly. So one thing led to another. That put me through the World Championship in '96, the following year. So I end up, after, deciding, okay, I'm dedicated. I'm gonna do 1 year of it and see what happens. See if I can make a shot at it in the industry. And I was already had my feet wet in it already. I was already working for Pair Ordnance. I was on with Safari Land at the time, and I had a couple other few sponsors. And one thing led to another. I was on the range every day. I was home 8 hours a day on the range. Get up in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, dry fire for 2 hours, go to range, and bang out, 600 to 1,000 rounds a day. Every day I was home and, shooting matches everywhere I could go. And at the time, there were a lot of tournaments in the country that we don't see today. There was probably, we got the Dragon Cup, which is kind of there, and Double Tap, and we got some other, major matches that pop up across the country. Like Buckeye was up in Ohio here a few weeks ago, and so, but there was several major matches. There was one on the West Coast called the Golden Bullet. There was one called the Miller Invitational, which was up in New York. FIPT, which was the Florida Invitational, which went on, came on in the '80s and went on for years. The Golden Eagle was out in Indiana, and so all these major matches that have been a staple in our core group of shooters in that period of time. We were traveling, basically almost, once a month to a major somewhere, and then we were shooting area matches or section matches along the way. I think I was shooting pretty close to 35 matches, 40 matches a year that were level twos or level threes, along with the nationals. And then I was traveling overseas too, so I was going overseas and shooting some matches over there. So yeah, so it ended up being just a travel mess. I mean, spend 4 hours of your day trying to figure out hotel rooms and and it wasn't like it is today where you can just jump on and
No.
get onto a match. No, it was cutting out your pages at front site, and that's what your match, entry was. So you would cut those out, and then you would mail them in. So if you and I were friends, and I was going like, "Hey, Dave, did you get your front sight yet?" And you go like, "Yeah, I got mine like 2 days ago, but I haven't got mine yet." And this match fills up super quick. So if you're not going, I'm gonna drive up to your house and I'm gonna cut it out of your front sight, and then I'm gonna run to the post office and I'm gonna overnight it to the match where I'm going to across the country. So you would, you have a stamp, and a letter and all ready to go, and all your money, your basic check was in there, and you sent it off. And then you were hoping that within 30 days you would get a notice back in the mail that you've been approved for the match and you are in. And so the more matches you shot, and the more times you went, you kind of got favoritism to the point where, okay, Todd, you shot the match the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years. We're going to keep you in. But at the time, I would say one of probably the best matches in the country was called the Miller Invitational. And Miller Brewing Company actually sponsored the match. It was up in Fulton County, New York, and which, we don't shoot a lot of majors in the state of New York anymore because of all the gun laws. But it filled up. It was basically a 4-day match. It also incorporated a 3-gun match. And we had I had started shooting in Miller in probably, I want to say 88 in that period of time, but the matches were still prevalent and they were still popular at the time. So I was doing well and had won a lot of those tournaments in that period of time. And so for me, it was kind of like, okay, I'm doing pretty good. And at the Nationals, I think in '95, I think I won every single major that I shot that year that I participated in, but I didn't win a Nationals. And so it was kind of disappointing for me. So one thing you have to understand, going to the Nationals, there's a lot of luck in winning the Nationals. We was shooting a match the other day, and I was telling a friend of mine, I'm like, you can always determine who was going to be in the top 3 at any Nationals after the first stage. It was just always a given. If you just had a good run and you had good karma going on, you could just almost rest assured that, okay, that guy, and that guy are going to be in the top 30. And you could almost count on every single years. And it was always, Rob Latham and Jerry Barnhart, myself at the time, we were in that period of time, we were basically the top 3 guys at the Nationals, at any other majors. And that went on for probably almost 10 years, all the way through the 90s. And I forget who won in 1995 at the Miller. I remember I won the Miller Championship in 91, 92, and 93. And I remember front sight writing it up. There's something about like Michael Jordan. Okay, Todd's like Michael Jordan because he won 3 world championships. All of those things through a year. So I was going to laugh about that day. But yeah, and so in 96, we had the world championship coming up. And I'd already previously shot the world championship in 93 in England, which was by far, I would say, the hardest of all the world championships to date that I have seen over the years. And it was in England. We were on a military base, and it was a really, really cool match. And it rained the whole time. I remember it was super difficult, a lot of hard targets, a lot of props. I mean, we used helicopters. We used 2-story, buses that were, broken down that they used for props. I mean, it was a really fun match at the time. So then we went to Brazil in 96. And so I think favored going in, Jerry Barnhart was one, Rob Latham, Michael Boyd was there at the time, was on the team. And so Matt McLaren, there was a bunch of us that were, I think we're all pretty even then. I mean, it was probably in that period of time, I'd say from 93 to maybe through 96, by far, those guys, there was about 5 of us. And you could almost flip a coin who was not going to win it because it was just kind of one of those types of, skill set that we all had at the time. So it was fascinating for all of us. So winning going to the World Shoot 96 and getting through 30, I think we only had 30 stages at the time. I don't think it was 36. I could be wrong. And so it was just getting there, getting your ammunition there, prepping for it. To any world championship you're going to travel overseas is always difficult. And the reason why, because you never know if you're going to get sick. And which you, God forbid, if you get sick overseas somewhere, you're pretty much out of the tournament wise. So all of us were kind of knocking heads back and forth through that tournament, which was in Brasilia at the time. And I ended up coming out on top. I remember going into the last day, Jerry Barnhart was actually winning the match. And I woke up on the last day on Friday, and I think I was in 5th place overall. We were fairly close, but we were in 5th. And I just decided, I woke up and I said, today's my time to win this match. And so at the end of the day, it came down to the last stage between Jerry and I. And Jerry had faltered and had a miss on the very last stage, and I shot after him, and it was kind of like, I never forget, we were sitting in a car, and we had to shoot the head of a large pepper popper, just the top of it, through a car, sitting in the vehicle at 35 yards away. And I'm going like, wow, this is an intense shot. You had to have your game plan on, and I remember hitting that pepper popper down, and it was kind of like that just set the tone for that stage, and I ended up winning that stage, and it was all over and done with. Matt McLaren, Matt and I were really good friends at the time, and Rob and all of them, they all came up to me, and they, it was USA actually won, the top spot, so it put us on the podium, which was always important for us as a team. But of course, we wanted to knock each other off. I mean, I wanted to beat Rob, and Jerry wanted to beat me. We didn't want Matt to win again because Matt had won in '93, so it's kind of like, hey, it's my turn, So, but no, it was that was probably, winning the first nationals for me was probably the pinnacle of my career because it's your first nationals. But winning the first world championship for me will go down in history. For me, as being my most memorable moment in the action shooting community. And then I went on to 99 and so 99, 2002, and 2003. I was second to Eric. That was in the Philippines. I was 99. There was a controversy that went on there. I still have a sour tooth over that. I probably should have won, but Eric ended up winning at the time. And then I was second in South Africa, and then I was second to him in Ecuador, and I haven't been back to shoot the world championship other than when it was in Frostproof in 2014. Kind of got my feel of the world championships and trying to deal with overseas stuff, and it was just it just didn't work out. I didn't want to spend 14 hours a day of doing the hard work and getting it done because life was just more complicated for me then.
Couple of questions. It was interesting. You said England was the toughest world match you've shot by far. But how did Brazil, when you won that, how did that match compare to the previous world at England? Was it a 35-yard headshot on a mini pop or on a popper at 35 yards? That's a pretty tight shot.
Yeah, the targets that we see today in major championships are, they're just not there like it used to be. I remember, shooting, nationals in the past where you're going like 35-yard headshots with no shoots underneath of them. And you walk away going like, hey, I only had a miss. I just had one miss. Going, you had one. I had 3 of them in a no-shoot. Okay.
Now, but Todd, how much of that do you think is because of all the other divisions? Like in the 90s, it was just open.
Well, we did have limited. We started the limited nationals in '92. That was the first year of Iron Sight. And that was the only nationals that I actually missed. And the only reason why, because at the time I didn't have enough vacation to go and shoot it. So of all the nationals that I've shot over the years, that was the only year that I'd missed a major match. Now, of course, we got tons of nationals now, like Optics. I mean, I can't go shoot the Optics nationals because I work for Staccato, and so we don't make basically a production gun that's legal for that division right now. So at that time, it was iron sights were, I would say, iron sights kind of took off, believe it or not, and became a very prevalent class through the 90s. So I always shot iron sights and the and open along the way. And there were nationals that we shot, area championships that were shot that you could actually shoot two guns in. So one year, I forget what year it was. I want to say 94, maybe. Time goes by pretty quick. So 94, 95, maybe 95. Area 2, you could shoot an open gun and you could shoot a limited gun. And I remember winning both of them in the same weekend. So both those nationals or those area championships were back to back. And then the following weekend, 2 weeks later or something, we flew to Area 3, and they had the same match going on. So you could shoot the open match with your open gun and then shoot iron sights a couple of days later and then go shoot them. And I ended up winning both of those, I remember, in 95. So I won all four. And I think Jerry was second to me in open, and Rob was second to me in limited in both those matches. And so it was a lot of time being put into, equipment, and, now you're working two guns when you go to practice. You're working iron sight and an open sight gun. So, and I was shooting at that time, I was shooting 135,000 rounds a year. And, and dry firing 4 hours a day. I mean, every day for years. I did that for well over 10 years. So, so we jumped back forward and, go in front of the world shooting in 96. Now, equipment pretty much kind of stabilized in that period of time. We did get some interesting things along the way. So there were better magazines, there were better springs that were coming out. Powders were getting better. We were getting a little bit more consistent with how the guns were going to operate. So we kind of worked all the bugs out of the high cap guns that were issues from the early 90s to about 95, probably 95. We kind of figured the bugs out, but there was I would say a huge jump in how guns were built in that period of time and how they lasted longer. Optics were on open guns were by far, I would say, more and more dependable, in what we were doing. I think it was interesting because sponsorship really kind of came into USPSA in that period of time, and which was, we were all like happy about that. I mean, we were getting more sponsors, people were coming in. We were just excited about having that, that core group of people come in and help us. And I think then that we end up having, I would say by 98, we had probably, 15 or 18 really good shooters out there. So when we went to the match, it was kind of like, I got to watch this guy, I got to watch this guy, and this guy's good. And I know this guy's watching me and I'm watching him. And so it was one of those period of times where there was this huge boost in the GM class, and GM, it came, GM shooters that popped up at that time where you had to step up your game. So if you didn't step up your game, you were not going to win. So I had dedicated myself in that period of time. So it was a good, from 1990 to 2003, probably 13 years for me. I probably, at one time, I can honestly say, I mean, my trophy case behind me there, I was probably winning 75% of the matches in that period of time for about a 10-year period. And if I wasn't, I was in the top 5 for sure. I think once 2000, the early 2000s hit, there was a group of new shooters that popped up that you knew that were going to be, they had some skill set, that they were going to be the next evolution of, heroes in the shooting sports for sure. And so 9/11 hit in 2001. I remember the match was canceled. Mike Voigt called me up because Todd, the match is canceled. We're not going to have it because it was just a few days after 9/11, the following weekend, we were having a national championship in Paso at the time. And I remember I was loading ammo, watching TV, and when the World Trade Center got hit, and we were going, oh my God! I mean, I'm flying out in 2 days, and one thing led to another. We all know what happened is, everything was canceled. New flights were going out for 3 days. You and I remember that. Some of the young
Yeah.
guys now who are shooting never would understand what went on that period of time. So the match was off. They canceled it, and so one thing led to another. Mike called up and said, "Hey, we're going to have it." I said, "Okay." Well, and he knew I was a top guy at the time, and I need to get in the vehicle and threw all my gear in the vehicle and drove 14 hours nonstop and shot the following day. And so
Wow.
it was an interesting time for us, as an organization, to be able to deal with what went on. And everybody showed up, and we shot the match and said the things we need to say, and thank the people we need to thank along the way. And so it was interesting. So, but by that time, so the late '90s, that's when production came in. So the production nationals, there was like a pre-match that they had I think in 1999, and a guy named Dave Savigny, he came on scene. Dave had been shooting for 2 or 3 years, and he was always hanging around the top. He was always one of those guys, pretty phenomenal, and he was kind of like the production guy. I went to work for Glock, and he was shooting Glock at the time. I'm not sure if he was working for Glock or not, but Dave was. He did bring something to the game that none of us had seen right off the bat, which was he jumped right in the game. He was winning right off the bat, and he was very consistent. And we had never seen that type of individual come through the shooting sports that was only in the game for a couple of years, and it's kind of like, wow, this guy's been in 2 or 3 years, and he's already at the top of the game. And so he was already winning some area matches here or there, and he was always hanging around the top. And then we had the first production nationals in Paso Park in Illinois, and that was the first year of production nationals. And my boss at Para Ordnance at the time goes, Todd, I want you to shoot our new production gun, which was called an LDA. The LDA was a double action trigger that we had built into the actual 1911 system, and the gun's no longer around our existence. But I won the first production nationals that year, and Dave was second on it. And then my whole thing was I was just trying to any new category that came out, I want to jump on it, and I want to see if I can, put a little bit more history in my back pocket for winning nationals for other, different disciplines we got. And then the single stack, became, I would say, come back in the game. Probably about that time, I don't remember exactly. And Springfield had started that single stack classic, which was at Paso Park. The Springfield was in Illinois, and Geneseo right down the road, and it just made sense for them to do it. And Rob had gotten that actual that national championship going along the way, and I think it took them a few years for that to actually become a true nationals. So I never shot it, and that's one national championship that has eluded me. And even though I started with the single stack 45, back in '83, for me it was like that was one nationals that's always eluded me over the years, and I've been second and third a couple of times on it. But Rob was the king of the hill of that, and he's if you can just stay on his feet and not move around and have to bend down these days, he probably would still be hanging out and be able to to win that match again. So, but he was pretty phenomenal with that gun. So for me, I put the time in for it, and I just never got lucky after I think 14 tries or something over the years. So so this year we have the single stack classic, which is all the iron sights. We got production, we got limited 10, which I have no idea why we got limited 10 even more. And then we have revolver, which is going to be the iron sight nationals, which is going to be up in Ohio. It'll be the first time that I've shot a nationals in Ohio, and it looked like a really super nice facility up there. And I think Jake and them have been working hard to be able to make sure those guys get everything correct and up and running. So I'm looking forward to going up there this summer and shooting that.
Single stack? You gonna?
I don't know if I'm gonna shoot single stack. I don't know if I'm gonna shoot limited. I haven't decided yet. It won't be revolver, or it won't be limited 10.
Okay, so we know 2 you're definitely not going to shoot.
Two's out. Two's out. Now I've won the limited nationals a couple times so over the years, so I do have that in my belt. And so if I do shoot the single stack, I pulled a gun out the other day. It's kind of like, do I shoot minor? Do I shoot major? So I got 25,000 rounds loaded up, ready to go that will go in either gun. Whether I shoot major or if I shoot minor. So they're all set up, and I did that back here last fall, and I set it up, and I was going we'll see what happens next year. So I knew this match is going to be held. So we'll see. I don't know. I'm looking forward to figuring out what gun I'm going to shoot. And if the guys that know me locally, very rarely do I shoot the same gun for more than a couple months at a time. I like to jump around. I'll shoot like I'm on limited optics right now. I'm going to do that through Area 4, and then I will jump off of that, and then because I'm going to shoot the PCC Nationals this year, and then I also plan on shooting. I'm not going to shoot open this year. I'm going to shoot the PCC Nationals and give that one more try, see if one of the Williams sisters can beat me again. So I can honestly say, hey, I got my man card. I mean, the girl's good. I can say she's pretty awesome.
Good. Yeah,
she's damn good. She really is. She's put some time into it. Yeah, I can honestly say that I'm one of those guys got beat by a girl at the national championship. But she is a rare breed, and I got to hand it to her. Both of them, they put their time and effort into shooting whatever discipline they want to work on, and they're damn good. They really are. Some of the best 2 young shooters, and I've known both. I've known both of them since they were 8, 9 years old. And so I've watched that, both of them come along and get what they are today in the action shooting sport. So especially in USPSA, and they're pretty phenomenal, bunch of girls, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Justine is driven to win high overall. So, and Max Leograndis is the only one that stopped her last year. So
that's true. And Max is, he's got a gift for that squirt gun. I don't know what he does. He just got a gift for it, and I've shot with him. He's actually, I've watched him because I shot the very first PCC Nationals, and I think I finished 3rd. And Max won it that year. Taryn Butler was 2nd. I was 3rd that year, and it was really close between Taryn and I going into the last stage. And so, and Max just walked away with it. And then the following year, he just crushed everybody. And I would say the last couple nationals, he's been, I would say, maybe we're just catching up with him, because you always learn from the best. So I don't care who's out there. So whoever's the top shooter there is, we're watching videos of them, or we're watching how they operate on the range, and you're picking up little things. So like for me, I was talking to JJ Racaza. JJ and I did a podcast here a couple months ago. We were chatting, and JJ goes, Todd, for you, you've been doing the same thing over and over for decades. I went, you got the same technique and everything. I said, no, but I'm almost 60 now, and I'm still working to change different techniques that I'm seeing from Christian Saylor, from JJ or Max, Leah Grandis and Max Michelle. Those guys, I pay attention to and watch them, because my whole thing is that the trends are changing in the game and how we shoot things. So the game's a little bit more faster now by far. Hit factors are higher, stages are closer, more compact, targets are more wide open, which doesn't breed well for me, because I don't shoot fast. For me, I've always had fast target acquisitions, but I've never had that fast split. So these kids now that are out there shooting 11, 10, 12 breaks pretty consistently on wide open targets, 7, 10, even 12, 15 yards away, I don't have that skill set. So I have to figure out another way to be able to clip a little bit of time off, whether it be in movement, whether it be on the draw, whether it be on reloading on the move, getting in a position quicker. But everybody else sees that too. because they watch JJ. I mean, JJ doesn't shoot fast at all. He has horrible splits. He shoots like an old man, like I do. Okay? But his damn footwork is
Yeah.
is pretty. He probably has the best footwork by far of anybody else out there, except for Nils. Now Nils he's like an alien from another planet, because the problem is with Nils, his legs are like already 6 feet tall. So for every 2 steps I take, he takes like a quarter step, and his position, that's where he gets most of us in the game. So if you want to watch, if you're a tall guy, like over 6 foot, you would definitely want to consider looking at Nils as as a mentor online by watching what he does, because it's all about footwork. This game really is about footwork. It's not about shooting. The shooting only gives you a score. But if I can do a 12 break, versus a 17 break, if I combine all those splits up along the way, say at a national championship, so we shoot 24 stages. So we go out there, and I go like, I'm going to add up every single split that I'm going to get behind Christian Saylor. Okay, Christian, he's a split master for sure. So if I go up there, automatically walking into the match, I'm going to be 7 and 9 seconds behind him before the buzzer first goes off.
Wow.
That's just a given. So I'm that far behind because I don't have those splits. Well, of course, he's got me by 40 years too. So, I kind of lose my train of thought along the way. You know how that is. It's kind of like.
Yes, I do.
Did I get that invoice out last week? And this is like happening during the stage. It's kind of like, oh my God, did I drink enough water earlier? I just don't feel good. So, how much sleep did you get last night? I don't even remember. I
forgot to take my Geritol.
Yeah, I got to get my Geritol.
Now, Todd, back in the 90s, I mean, when you were talking like the Miller Invitational, was there, I'm always curious, what did they give cash prizes back then, or was it just okay? So you got a I can see all the cups behind you over there, all the trophies. So you got a trophy and a cash prize.
Correct. And I mean, so well, I'm going to jump back to my very first cash prize match, which was in 1988 at a match in Evansville, Indiana. It's called the Golden Eagle. And I was new at the time, but everybody kind of was watching me. And I ended up winning that match. And I think Jared Barnhart was second at the time, and Rob may have been third. And they're going to lie, the kid just got lucky. But I remember when the award ceremony came up, and they walk up and, here's Todd, and I didn't know what to say. Here I was a kid, I didn't know. I'm like, hey, thank you. I want to thank everybody. And okay, here's $1,000 in $100 bills. And I'm like, are you kidding me? I just won $1,000, So that was my very first cash prize that I got. And so over the years, you would go to major matches, and the Florida Invitational, they were the money match. You could go down there and make $6,000 easy, because they pay that stage money. So it's $500 a first. I think it was $350 per second and $150 per third. And if you were, if you were good at stages and you were at the top of the game, you could walk out there with, I think I typically averaged between $4,000 to $6,000 every single time I went to that match every year. So that kind of paid for a lot of expenses and hotel rooms, and everything turned right back into the game you were playing that you love to do. So that was something I was doing. But the Miller, in the beginning, they did pay out cash in the beginning. I think after they started writing checks for it, so I think it was just easier accounting wise for them over the years. But I would say by 1996, 97. I think the match directors decided that they wanted to make more money than the shooters, and that kind of went away. The prizes were great. We used to have phenomenal prize tables. I mean, you go to prize tables. I mean, Dylan would, they were giving 1050s away. You had guns on the table that went down 40, 50 places. Wow. We had tons of sponsors at the time. And so like all the area matches, like Fredericksburg. So you're in Fredericksburg, and Fredericksburg ran Area 8 for years. And God Almighty, we used to have prize tables there that were phenomenal. Back in the '90s. Today, prize tables. I don't even know why they even have them because you know, it's really not prevalent. To the top guys. Yeah, there's a few guns out there, but I would just soon have those donated to juniors and new shooters coming in than it is to the top guys because it's really not worth it for us to even bother with it. And plus, anything over $600, you're getting a 1099 from a gun company. So if I get a gun from SIG, I'm gonna get a 1099. And so, okay, I got a gun that I couldn't sell for $500, but retail is $799. So I get retail value on it, and I get a 1099 on it, and I got to pay taxes on it. So I sold it to my local dealer so I can go buy bullets or shotgun shells or powder or whatever I need for what's coming up. And you end up it's not cost effective. Do we need the sponsors? Do they want to give us stuff? Yeah, we do. And I think I would love to be able to see like a program that we could have, like an escrow for new shooters coming into the shooting sports, whether it be juniors, ladies, newcomers, and people come in and we can reward them across the board with an escrow container. Guys need holsters. I'm not familiar with it. I want to get into it. So do we ship those to our section matches, our state championship matches, and give those out? You need some way of kind of policing that because sometimes things don't get where they're supposed to go at correctly, and that can be and also be an issue. When it comes to match directors, and we got great match directors. You're gonna get me wrong, but there's been plenty of thievery in the past, and that I can tell you. After 40 years of doing it, I can tell you some stories that are pretty sickening in many ways.
Wow. Now, while we're on the topic of prizes and cash, what did you think of Prairie Fire and their rank competition?
Well, I work for Staccato, and so you have to understand that Prairie Fire is our sister company. And so
Okay.
when they did the rank, that was it's like anything that companies coming in. And over the years, there's probably been maybe 5 or 6 major companies over the years that kind of popped up and said, "Hey, let's we're going to do a big promotional thing because we want to you know you know get our company or get our range or something our product out along the way." So somebody would
Hmm.
throw big money at some event and everybody's going to come and shoot it. And so I was involved in the putting the stages together with that. I didn't have anything else to do with other than that. There was a big, huge undertaking. That event probably cost Prairie Fire more than probably close to $2 million to put that event on.
Wow.
And so, did they get the publicity that they wanted out of it? They got a lot of publicity out of it. So now Prairie Fire is actually where the original front sight range was in Las Vegas. So
Right.
Prairie Fire purchased that. So the actual company, which is an investment group, which now owns Staccato, they own the range out in Vegas, which was the front sight range out there. And they're getting ready to drop millions of dollars into that facility over there. They want to make it a premier facility for people coming and shoot nationwide. Because the guy who is the big boss, his name is Peter Castleman, and Peter is a huge Second Amendment guy, huge. And I mean, he's owned companies like North Face, Igloo Coolers, and a bunch of other places. So the guy's got tons of money.
Hmm.
He's a huge Second Amendment guy, and he really wanted the Prairie Fire event to take off and go where it should go at. Um, the problem is, there were a lot of chiefs involved there, um, but not enough Indians, in my opinion. So it went off, and Tim Yackley won a lot of money. BJ
Yeah.
Norris won a lot of money, and Nils was going like I was actually RO in that event for the finals there, and Nils goes like, "How did Tim beat me by like 6 seconds?" I was going like, "Because you shoot slow, Nils. You aim too hard. That kid ain't aiming. He don't even know what." So Nils was, and of course I'm chatting with them, in between while they're doing different runs, because I ran the whole one is RO at the end, and it was just funny, Nils going like, "Is a kid ever going to miss?" I went, "No." I mean, I had some really hard targets. I had like little mini poppers, the little mini poppers out at 18 to 20 yards away, and then Tim just hit them all one for one. He didn't even blink. And it was going like we just kind of
Wow.
scratched our head. I mean, it's going like the kid was just on fire, and we knew going into that. I was going like, Tim has been hot. He's another phenomenal shot. He is tall, lanky kid. He's very similar in stature as Nils is. So,
Hmm.
but Tim's a really he's no joke. He's a phenomenal shot. He really is. So,
Yeah.
Prayer Fire, we'll see what happens. I'm not sure if they're going to do that $1 million deal this year or not. I would think if they're going to do anything, they start advertising that here in another couple of months. I haven't heard anything with that. I'm not involved with it, and I don't plan on being involved with it this year unless I'm told to be there. So,
Okay. Now, going back to the 90s real quick before we get into your presidential stuff, we last episode we talked a little bit about how you went to Steve Hornady and he was building your bullets for you. How much work, because that seemed to be a huge growth period in powders, bullets, and pistol shooting in general, that whole growth. How much did you guys work with the different ammunition companies and and barrel manufacturers to really solidify all of that?
um, it's hard to because most of these companies, I mean, because they're these corporations, they're in the business of making money, not losing money.
Mm-hmm.
So if I come to you and go like, "Oh, Dave, hey, I got this really great new bullet design I want you to do," and it's kind of like, "Okay, Todd, how many can I sell?" Going like, "Oh man, we got a lot of guys are shooting. I mean, I know we can probably sell, probably 1 million of them easy." And you're going like, "1 million?" Um, Todd, that's a great way of understanding how to lose money in business. And Macro set up a tooling process to be able to make 1 million bullets. And you come to me and say you're going to do 15, 20 million, then we got something we can talk about. So
Mm.
my whole thing is that, talking to different people in the industry, Atlanta Arms and Ammo, Danny Weisner was my very first sponsor in 1986, 87 when he went into business. And so Danny was actually starting making ammunition that was loaded components for the competition market. So people who didn't want to load, they could essentially go to Atlanta Arms and Ammo, and you could buy straight from him and at a very reasonable price, and you didn't have to reload. A lot of people at the time didn't know how to reload, didn't have the time, didn't want to worry with it. They just wanted to shoot. Um, and I know like Rob Latham. Rob has been shooting Atlanta Arms and Ammo for decades now, and Rob don't even reload. Only thing he reloads is rifle stuff. Rob goes, I'm not reloading, Todd. That's below me. Only thing I want to do is shoot. So you just follow Rob around the range for brass. So yeah, so going to any time that I would approach a company, you better have your homework done, because as I got older, I understand more how the business side of the firearms world work. So whenever I went to somebody and I went like, "Hey, I would like to have a bullet made, or I need a part made or something done," they're going like, "Okay, well, if I want to make a part for a gun," so I go in and go like, "Hey, I got a design for a part I want you to do. Would you be interested in making it? How many you want to make?" I was going like, "I think I can do 5,000." And that company may say, "Okay, 5,000 is not a lot for us, Todd. We're going to have to put you on the back burner. We can get that to you at the end of the year." If I went to a company and go like, "Okay, I got 5,000 parts I want to make, but I want you to sell them," and then I'll take a percentage of them back. And they're going like, well, okay, well, that makes sense, and we can make more money, and then, you know, and you get to get a little bit of money too. So those were things that how I approached the industry as a business. And and all the people that are out there listening to this podcast, and if you're new to shooting sports and you think you're going to become a pro shooter, understand how the business of the firearms industry works. It is a mom and pop operation. I would say 75 to 80% of all the companies that are in existence, they start in somebody's garage. I mean, we just look at the gun industry itself. Look at Les Bear. I knew Les Bear when he was in his garage in Pennsylvania. Now he's got a major corporation he's got. I can just, Bill Wilson, same with Bill. Bill was working out of his garage, and look where Bill's at today. We can look at, I probably named 50 companies over the years where people that I have, shot with over the years, their business their shooting turned into a business. Some of us, as shooters became shooters. And so along the way, I felt that I need to understand how the industry worked, because I was already in it with Para Ordnance and Safari Land. So I was already, doing demonstrations for law enforcement, and I knew how to shoot. So that's why they used us, because they want to showcase a new product they may have. And so I understood that side of business. But looking at the numbers, you had to really dig into and ask questions about a firearms manufacturer or an accessory company or a bullet company, what was going to be profitable for them. So, of course, you make friends within that industry, not at the top, but below. Supervision, workers, those guys may be shooters, and they work on, shoot on the weekend with you. Going like, yeah, so how much brass do you make every week? What kind of bullets you make? Who's in charge of that? So for me, that was a learning curve as a young guy trying to figure out that part of the industry, and it's been very valuable for me. So even running for president, I think I have a leg up on most of the guys that are running because I've dealt with the firearms industry for so long, and I know who's who, and they're all basically all these people that I have worked with for 25, 30, sometimes I've known them for 40 years.
Right.
And so I think it's a leg up for me coming into the organization, and potentially, if I get voted in, to have a chance to be able to help out the organization a little bit more.
Until next time.
Don't be a little bitch.
Yeah.